Hey, this is Matthew from Everyday Audiophile. The proprietor, writer, reviewer, all of that good stuff. It's been a while. It's been a long week with my normal job. I've been in office for the entire week, and so that's another story. That's fun. What I want to talk about today is vacuum tubes. And it's probably pretty easy to see with the two triode amps behind me that I am a fan of vacuum tubes. And it's always been sort of strange for me. I have, for a very long time, sought measurements. For a very good reason, right? Science provides a quantitative measurement to what we're hearing. And if we understand what something is supposed to sound like, or what that measurement means, we can, find ever increasing heights of aural fidelity. But that doesn't always line up with what I hear. And I hate that sometimes. I hate that, what science says is supposed to be the best doesn't actually feel the best. And I've taken a lot of time to think about it. What exactly does that mean? And the only thing that I can come up with is that we humans need a certain type of and or a certain amount of distortion, because truly that's what vacuum tubes do, right? They add distortion. When we look at this tiny little tube cube from Tube Depot, there's, other rebranded versions of it, and it comes with two EL84s driven by a ECC 83, puts out, if you're lucky on a good day, this will put out, a watt to a watt and a half before you're reaching, 10% distortion. But that's a crazy amount. When you look at something that's more finely engineered, like these Triode Lab Quad EL84 amps behind me, and ultralinear, those put out 26 watts, and that's 26 watts, at under 1% of distortion, which is really, really quite good. There are a lot of tubes out there. EL84 just happens to be my favorite. It's the one that I have, in the last 12 years of listening to music, kind of identified as my soulmate as far as vacuum tubes are concerned. I've heard the triode tubes. I've heard the pentode tubes. And there's a lot to love about all of them. When I think of the pure triode tubes, that is just escaping my memory right now, it's a little too smooth for me. Really, like I do enjoy the detail, and that's what I get out of solid state electronics, but I need the magic that's almost hard to quantify that vacuum tubes provide. And going down the triode is a little bit too much. If you go to a pentode tube, KT88, KT120, 77, 6550, those all sound great too. I'm not going to knock them. I really enjoy the KT88. Of those, it's probably my favorite tube. But the EL84, man, there is something special about it. Did I say pentode? I meant tetrode. Those are all tetrode tubes. It's the EL84 that's a pentode. I knew that. But circling back to the EL84. Let's see, what is this that I have? I have a few boxes here. I'll bring them up. 3 boxes that are filled with different vacuum tubes. I have a spreadsheet that I've logged the measurements for all of them, and put them into pairs and in quads as needed for these amps, obviously. And I just have of the EL84s, I have probably 14 or 15 matched quads And not only are they matched quads, they're not matched quads of like the new tubes that are being manufactured. These are. Let me find one here somewhere. Gotta go digging for them. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. There we go. These are USSR tubes from the 70s and 80s. And in my personal opinion, the finest EL84 that you can find. I think one of my complaints for an EL84, if I had one, would be that given the standard implementation, so not a massive output transformer like these, something that you might find in the Luxman SQ N150, which I've reviewed and I tremendously enjoy. I also have there's the Glow Audio Amp 1, which is a 6N3 EL84 amp, and I think that thing sounds acceptable, pretty good, I guess. I do use it as my daily driver. You have this Tube Cube, and there's a few other amps that I have that are all EL84s. My common complaint amongst most of them is no bass. And I'm sorry if you can hear the air conditioning coming on. This Russian tube, it fixes that. I don't know what exactly they did different. I'm not a wizard, but they did it right, and I bought as many as I could get my hands on for, without destroying my bank account. And that's going to be my stock that lasts me for hopefully the foreseeable future. I will note with that Russian tube, there are different variations on it. The version that I have, I think it's -EP. It's like their ruggedized military version that has a 10,000 hour lifespan average, and I'm going to take them for their word for it. That's what like I said, I use in these. I use everywhere that I can. Chef's kiss. It's amazing. But what about the rest of these tubes? I have a fair collection of 12 AU7s, AT7s. I really like the AT7. Easy 81 rectifiers. These are all things that I've just collected over the years. I think I have about $5,000 worth of vacuum tubes. Or at least that's what the going price for them would probably be today if I were to sell them. But every time I do look at that collection, I do just come back to that why. Why did I get into vacuum tubes? Why do I continue coming back to vacuum tubes? Especially when I have a very nice collection of solid state amplifiers. My reference right behind the camera here is the Riga Osiris, which debuted in 2010. It's still my reference amplifier. Yes, it's to me, it's beaten out amps like the Benchmark, the AHB2 from Benchmark. I've tested it against the Cambridge Audio Edge amplifiers, has beaten those. The topping amplifier to me has beaten those. The shit ones, all of those tremendous. And from a measurements point of view, they all should sound pretty identical. I'm sure some minor differences here or there, but every single time I come back to the Osiris, which is a testament to Riga. It's the first flagship cost no object amplifier that they came out with, and to me it's stood the test of time. I remember when I first heard it at my local audio store. It was before I really got into exploring what else was available outside of that audio store. Like I kind of took them for as the subject matter expert, and they are. I would totally go back to them if I had a question about something that I didn't know. I remember the first time I heard it powering a pair of Wilson speakers. and that was it for me. There was no going back. They had Boulder amps, they had Audio Research amps, still very nice. And the Riga was what did it for me. But sometimes you need tubes, and I'm gonna keep on circling back to this. It's a recurring theme that I kind of want the point to get across, that vacuum tubes are here to stay. There is a loveliness about them, especially when used with the right kind of speaker. To me, this is a higher sensitivity speaker, 90 plus dB. I think once you start dipping into that 88, 87, 85, it's not that tube amps can't sound nice, it's just they don't have the grunt. They're not going to be able to really drive that speaker to good volumes. And for a lot of them, especially when you're looking at those triode, tubes, they need bass supplement. They need a subwoofer because they're not going to be able to drive those frequencies. I don't have that problem with these amps. I'll power the Q Acoustic Concept 500s, my Riga RS10s, Klipsch RB 800 or 8000 F speakers. Those ones are high sensitivity, so obviously no issue there. Even my little, they're not back here. Right now I have some Q Acoustic 3000Is back here, but I did have Sela Audio Compato. Those were their little, it used a nice ribbon tweeter and a Dayton Audio 5 1/4 inch driver. Those are rated for like 82 dB. And yeah, these things still drove those well. I'm not going to play them loud. Probably the speakers couldn't take it, but still sounded great. Anyways, kind of going back to this audio. I'm going to, in all of my videos, I really want to work towards seeing both sides of the story. As an engineer who loves data-driven initiatives for what I do in my day-to-day work, I kind of not despise, but at some point it's really hard to say we should work on this because this is what I'm feeling. I need data for it. And it goes completely against what I do at home. So as I'm doing these reviews, as I'm doing these videos going forward, I really hope that I'm able to bring both sides of that. I'm going to have measurements of a speaker, and I'm going to compare that with what I'm hearing. Then I can take those measurements from a known amplifier and compare them with measurements from a different amplifier. I don't know what that's going to do in this room. I've only ever measured 3 sets of speakers, but all with the same amplifier. I've never done it with, these EL84 FFXs. I've never done it with this Tube Cube. God, this would probably sound terrible. It'll probably measure terrible, but that brings some science into this hobby that so many people have such a strong passion for, right? All right, I'm gonna call it. What is that? 14, almost 15 minutes of me rambling. If you made it to the end, thank you. If not, that's okay. This isn't my livelihood. It is something that I do for fun, and I hope that you enjoyed it. All right, peace.